Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. We're happy to have you for our final webinar for series number 2. Can you believe it? It's gone by so quick. And we're very happy to have Vivian Akel presenting on the pastoral side of youth ministry. It's really a blessing to have you, Vivian. Thank you for being with us and making the time to be with us. So just to introduce Vivian, I have a little intro for Vivian. So I'm just going to read it for the benefit of those who don't know Vivian. Vivian Akel is a retired licensed clinical social worker currently holding the position of Safe Environment Coordinator for the Maronite Eparchy of St. Maron of Brooklyn, as well as a pre-Cana facilitator. Her prior experience includes 21 years with the New York City Department of Education as a school social worker, providing all aspects of social work services with school-aged children, parents, and educators. In addition, Vivian held the position of Director of Social Work in an acute care medical center, supervising social workers providing services to patients, families, and medical personnel. She began her career working in a community mental health center in Brooklyn, New York, providing outpatient psychotherapy to include patients, couples, and families, and maintained a private practice until her retirement in 2014. She received a master's degree in social work from Hunter College School of Social Work and is currently enrolled in a spiritual direction training program at Fairfield University's Murphy Center for Ignatian Spirituality. Vivian is a lifelong parishioner of Our Lady of Lebanon Maronite Cathedral in Brooklyn, New York. She currently resides with her husband of 35 years in Brooklyn, New York, and has 2 adult children. Welcome, Vivian, and welcome everyone who can be on the call tonight. It's really a blessing to have each and every one of you. So without further ado, Vivian will be opening us up with a prayer and then giving us her presentation.
Okay. Thank you all for taking the time on this balmy summer night to be with us. A real tribute to our fellowship. So I'd like to begin with this prayer. Spirit of the risen Lord, who moved the Holy One to care for friends with his still wounded hands and pierced heart, make me attentive to my friends, even with my fearing touch and waning spirit. Open my eyes to see what gifts they really are. Open my ears to hear what good they say. Brace my spirit to feel what they need me to feel, as you steeled the heart of Jesus while he lived, misunderstood, as they betrayed. Brace me now while I find how I have fared in risking myself to remain true to who I am, and to be open in giving and receiving love. Amen. Okay. So, how is everyone this evening? Good. Everyone's muted. Sorry about that. Okay.
Feeling good, thank you.
Okay, so let's begin. My talk tonight is on pastoral care and youth ministry, and all of us are involved in one way or another in some aspect of pastoral care with our youth. So, as we begin our discussion tonight on pastoral care and youth ministry, I'd like to begin exactly where Deacon Joe Shepley left off last time, by repeating a quote that's sometimes attributed to St. Francis. He said, "Preach the gospel at all times. When necessary, use words." This quote is essentially the crux of everything we do as youth ministers, and equally important, everything we do as witnesses to Christ in our daily lives. But we can't begin to talk about what we do unless we first know who we are. I've been known to describe and compare our various ministries throughout the eparchy as recipes. You can't follow the steps of a recipe until you identify and gather the ingredients. So let's get started identifying those ingredients, the who we are. We are Maronite Catholics who believe in Christ's mission and ministry of love. St. Paul tells us in his first letter to the Corinthians, 12:31 to 13:8, and I'm going to read it because it is so important. Brothers and sisters, strive eagerly for the greatest spiritual gifts, but I shall show you a still more excellent way. If I speak in human and angelic tongues, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It is not jealous, it is not pompous, it is not inflated, it is not rude. It does not seek its own interests, it is not quick-tempered, it does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. The Word of God. Now, we pretty much could end right here, but we won't. But St. Paul certainly gave us every one of the tools, every one of the ingredients to go ahead and follow the recipe. So let's move on. We're formed in Christ's image and compelled to bear witness to him each day of our lives by virtue of our baptism. And now I'm still talking about the who we are. We're also committed to accompanying those placed in our care with charity, generosity, and respect. This requires self-awareness, maturity, and an ability to listen with our heart. It also requires that we direct our energies toward helping to bring our young people to God in a meaningful way and hopefully in a lifelong commitment. So now let's talk a little bit about self-awareness. It can best be described as knowing who we are, but also being able to identify our emotional reactions to people and events while acknowledging how these reactions reflect our feelings and our beliefs. Self-awareness is also knowing who we are in God's loving eyes. In other words, seeing ourselves as God sees us, or at least trying. How do we master self-awareness? First, we learn who we are by knowing who shaped us and how we developed our belief and our passions. Second, our emotions can best be identified in daily prayer as we review our day in God's presence and try to understand our responses to people and events. Very simply stated, when we connect our prayer life to our emotional life. Third, we begin to see who we are in God's eyes when we're open to discerning and finding where God is in our life in these day-to-day situations through our daily prayer. So this is what self-awareness is. This is the who we are. And this is why it's so important. When you engage in pastoral care, you bring your total self, all your graces, all the gifts bestowed upon you by God to this ministry that He has called you to. These three areas of self-awareness are key in helping you live out your ministry with the interior freedom that God asks of you as you care for His flock. These three areas are particularly important in the process of your formation as youth leaders because of the significance of the role you play in the lives of the young people entrusted to you. Your role in their lives must be one that you see and accept as bringing them to God through your own witness to Christ by way of your own faith formation, rather than your own personal biases or agenda. So I want to quote Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan author and priest. He writes, "To offer pastoral care is not about us, what we say or do. Our role is to direct the person to God. This is the first and final work of all true religion. It's about touching the core of the person, their heart, their deepest truth. Pastoral presence allows for true connection and understanding deeply from the heart. It is in such presence that others experience the power of God that heals, sustains, reconciles, and guides." So he's essentially saying that our young people will experience God through us and will make the connection to him through our generosity and our loving presence. I'd like to quote one other author, Roy Pettifee, a Catholic author and psychotherapist. He states it beautifully. "Our job isn't to put Jesus in their hearts. It's to help them realize he's already there and to help remove the clutter, the debris, and other interference that blocks the sound of God's still, small voice within them." He continues, "Simply listening well to young people with compassion, without judgment, can make a huge difference in their lives. Do not ever underestimate the importance of listening with your heart. We're there to accompany them on their journey to an intimate relationship with Jesus." Now, I wanted to go on and talk a little bit about some of the normal concerns that these young people have, because we are encountering them each time we are with them. Some of their normal concerns are acceptance by their peers, developing individuation from their primary families of origin, developing and mastering competencies, particularly as they begin to approach their career choices, searching for meaning in life, a cause, a mission, developing close friendships and emotional, spiritual intimacy, and most important, an evolving spirituality and relationship with God. In one way or another, every one of the young people we encounter is searching for one of these. It might be masked by something else, but ultimately it will come down to any one of these, and oftentimes a search for a relationship with God. It's especially important to remember, however, that as youth ministers, regardless of our position in this capacity, we are not their therapists, and we are not therapists. In working with our youth, we must always keep in mind setting a reasonable sense of balance and boundaries so that our own needs do not interfere with the work of our ministry. And I'll give you some examples, which in some ways may or may not be so easy to hear. So we need to be clear that we don't need to be excessively popular among our youth, that we do not need to rescue our youth emotionally or spiritually, that would speak to our need to be needed. We should not be agreeing to keep serious secrets, thereby fostering excessive dependence and attachment on both sides. We should be careful not to express disapproval or judgment when a confidence shared collides with our own values. Our own personal feelings and judgments should never replace God's loving mercy and acceptance of each of his children, because God never rejects. He never rejects, and he never punishes. So I'm going to repeat something I said before because it is extremely important. So I want to reiterate it, to reemphasize it. It's especially important to remember as youth ministers, regardless of our position in this capacity, we are not therapists. So now let me talk about some of the positive approaches when working with youth. So first and foremost, affirmation and support for who they are and what they have achieved. Always. Affirmation, always. Consistent, predictable spiritual rituals, extremely important. Youth liturgy, adoration as a group, encouraging reconciliation. I always tell the young people, it's not your grandmother's confessional. It's completely different. And trying to help them see that they don't need to go into the confessional with that laundry list. Periodic days of recollection, very important. Important to connect them in a community so that they are part of a larger, something larger than themselves, the group, the communion. Liturgical study to help understand and bring home to them the true meaning of the liturgy. And of course, Bible study and really enhancing prayer life so that it does connect to their emotional life and become much more meaningful, opening the door and paving the way to a much more meaningful relationship with Christ. Ongoing dialogue and support about the challenges in living out their Catholic faith beliefs in a secular world. I think this is where our youth really struggle. There's so much pressure to see the church as part of an archaic institution that isn't relevant. And yet, when you look deeper and you look at how much our Catholic Church has done to really forward, the roles of women, to erase poverty, we need to be reminded that our church is a living church, a living, dynamic church. And last, encouraging engagement in individual parish communities. This could take on the face of any form of service and ministry, whether it's choir, music ministry, lecture ministry, altar carers, caring for, the altar linens, the candles, being part of that Eucharistic celebration. And other volunteer activities and ministries to enhance a sense of purpose, service, and belonging. Volunteer work in soup kitchens, visitation of the sick and the elderly of the parish if the pastor is agreeable. These are all ways of helping to give our young people a sense of mission, of purpose, of meaning, and importance outside of themselves, which really is a way of building confidence and helping them to really discern their place in God's community. And that really is what the best we can do for our young people, is to be there, to affirm, to support, and to give them consistency and predictability. And with that, I am coming to the end of my written talk. And so I'd like to really open this up for conversation, reactions, questions. I'd love to hear from all of you what you've been doing in your own communities to support the youth in your ministries.
Vivian, thank you so much. That was really thought-provoking and a lot of good things to kind of consider and reflect on. I have a question for you. I feel like under this umbrella of pastoral ministry, with the idea of boundaries, and I think that's such an important thing, because sometimes we haven't been taught, collectively, I'm saying we haven't been taught what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. And I know that we have the code of conduct, and we have, certain things that we have to do or read, especially when it comes to, the background checks, the training that we have, the virtues training, and then, reviewing those codes of conduct. I don't know if you can speak a little bit to that, for those that are here, or the importance of
well, what I can talk a little bit to that. I did not want to only talk about what not to do. And really, my focus was also to help us to know what to do.
Sure.
I think that it's very tempting when you're working with teenagers to be the one who holds the secrets that they won't share with their parents. But that's not necessarily a good place to get yourself into with young people. I think that if you've gone through some of those safe behaviors, we want our ministries to be, for the most part, group events, group activities, group projects, and the one-on-one should be really minimized and held in spaces that are not so secluded, because we really want to have our young people feel comfortable and always a part of the larger community. Also, it's important for us to empower young people to know that they can make decisions and choices that are healthy and safe, and not build excessive dependency on us. That's not our role in their life, and that's the kind of role that gets a little murky. Late night phone calls, not appropriate. Secrets kept from their parish, from parents, from priests, from other adults, not a good idea. Meeting one-on-one alone during unscheduled events, absolutely not a good thing. If young people want to speak to you, it should be within the confines of an event that's going on, not somewhere that you go off on your own. I'm trying to think, at the top of my head, what we have very specific things that we ask you to do, never to really be alone, to share anything questionable on computers. And also it's very important that that young people feel that they are part of community and are not only attached to one person in the parish, in the MYO organization itself. And so they'll bring us all kinds of things that they don't want to talk about with anyone else. How we handle it is really it's tricky. And if someone shares something with you that is really serious, they need to know that you will not hold it, that you may have to share it with the parish priest or the parent. Does that answer? That was a long-winded way of answering your question.
Yes, thank you. That was helpful.
That's more of the what not to do than what to do.
Since we're on the conversation of boundaries, first of all, thank you so much for the amazing talk. We are so happy to have you tonight. Now that COVID restrictions are being lifted and vaccinations are happening and circulating, how do you suggest we regroup our youth after over a year of isolation and separation on virtual events? What do you think is the best way, like little by little, or having a huge event to kickstart in person?
When you say a huge event, are you talking about parochial or regional or parish? I mean, there are many
On any level, even if it's a larger parish function.
Well, it would be important to have a focus. Maybe, now I haven't checked this out with anyone, but I always envisioned all of us coming back after this. And of course, you have to check with the pastors, we'll have to check with Sayedna. My thought was, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a liturgy where we all could be anointed with, with holy oils. Now, I don't know if there's anything, anything sort of like a post-COVID anointing, but certainly a post-COVID liturgy for everyone to get back together and thank God for the graces that he has given and bestowed upon us, that we are all still here and alive. With that, a planning session might be nice, so that don't just get together with no form and you maybe break into committees. Okay, we'll have a social committee, an apostolic committee, a spiritual committee, a membership committee, some other social whatever. And each group of 2 or 3 people can begin to schedule things for the larger group. That might be a way of meeting, but having a purpose and being focused. I think that would be a nice way to reconnect and get started.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Jano has her hand up. So is it okay if you'd like to go, Jano, next, and then we can go with Sherry?
Sure, thank you. Just to let everybody know, I don't know if y'all received it, but there was a letter sent out by the bishop saying that everything needs to go back to normal by, I believe, by the 22nd of June, that things have to start back to normalcy. And I believe in August, he gave a date where everything has to be back to status, as is, back to normal before COVID. So, we already started organizing to get going with all our committees down here in Miami. So FYI. Thank you.
I think we did all receive that pastoral letter from Sayedna. Yes, I mean, I think that parishes are getting up and running, but I think that sometimes our youth need to have something a little bit more, I don't want to say focused, but maybe something that gives them a little more form. And I think it's great that we'll be up and running again, and that we'll all be together, and that we can all worship together. Yeah, God has been good to us.
Is it okay for me to speak?
Sure.
I just wanted to say that here in Danbury at St. Anthony's, we have been blessed enough to meet. And although we only have like half participation, half of the kids that actually come to the liturgy, we meet once a month, and we have volunteers. They do the readings, the intercessions, any announcements at the end of liturgy. And then we go down for our meeting. And we have an active group, and they wanted to create t-shirts. We've never had t-shirts and sweatshirts. So they said that we're going to have a bake sale on Father's Day and raise the money for the t-shirts. So I feel like even though it's been a little crazy with COVID, we have been able to still meet. We social distance in the parish hall. You know, we had at that time people wearing masks. We don't have to now in the state of Connecticut. The mask mandate was lifted on May 19th. So for us, I'm grateful that our kids are active, for the ones who parents let them come. I don't know if it's lack of parental support for the other ones, or if it was COVID was their concern that the others didn't come. But we still, whenever we have communication, we still communicate, even though they've showed no effort to participate. We still include them on everything. We're planning summer get-togethers as well. So either a bowling night or a movie night. So, and we're going to have a drive-through Mahjong in August. We can't have our big event, and they'll be involved in that as well. So luckily our kids want to come to church and do these things. And I'm starting to see the shy ones really break out, want to volunteer and do the readings. And that, you know, as a youth advisor, it's really good to see that, and that they are encouraging their younger siblings to join next year. So that says to me, they're having fun. And it's, you know, a safe place and a good place to be, that they want their siblings to join them.
Good. Sounds like you really have stayed connected with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that parents have also been concerned if they live with you know, extended families, if they have grandparents living at home as well. And so people have been very mindful of just how dangerous this virus has been. So the concern has been, well, you know, you can't really be out and about. You're bringing home potentially something for grandma or grandpa. So I do understand that. It's going to be, I think, a slow start for people to come back if they have that situation. But I think that prayers of gratitude are in order, as well as we, you know, move into more social things. And so I think that gratitude goes a very long way in uplifting people's hearts. And that's why really we talk a lot about who we are, because we need to be the ones that communicate that gratitude, that love, and that enthusiasm for Christ and his message.
Any other comments, reflections, questions for Vivian?
I actually have another question. So regarding the role of youth advisors and youth leaders, in your opinion, how much support should they be giving the pastors?
As much as they possibly can. Pastors need as much support at times as our young people. Remember, they suffered greatly during this. And when I'm not just talking about the pandemic, but right now I am. I just finished reading an article about the enormous cost emotionally for the pastors, the isolation. We all had our families to go home to. Um, they really were, many of them who were forced to keep their churches closed then had to deal with a lot of criticism. Why aren't you opening? Why aren't you closing? Why are you giving communion? Why are you giving it in the hand? Why are you giving intinction? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I've heard a lot of it. They need to know that we value them, that we really, are partners with them. And so I think that every step of the way, when you involve your pastor, you gain an ally. And your ministry isn't only with the youth. I mean, our ministries are for whoever we encounter. I made some phone calls over the course of it. Of course, what I do in the eparchy is primarily supporting the priests. And when I would call and say, this is a social call, I'm just calling to see how you are, I'm not calling to yell at you about something, I would get follow-up emails that say, how nice was it to hear a voice that wasn't asking me or asking for something or criticizing something. And goes a long way. So whenever you can, you should support and love your priest.
For sure. Thank you.
By the way, which parish are you in?
I'm Pittsburgh, Our Lady of Victory.
Pittsburgh. Oh, Father Chevley, he's
Yes.
wonderful. Yeah. Good person. Let me ask you, why did you ask that question?
Oh, because, I mean, lately over the pandemic, we've had to balance the role of pastors and youth leaders. We're trying to navigate. So we're reaching out to the pastors. Sometimes they're unresponsive. Reaching out to youth leaders. Sometimes they're unresponsive. So I was curious about the relationship between these two leaders, because you have religious leaders and you have lay leaders in the church. So,
but if it's a combined effort for a mutual mission, then you've got to partner together, because our goals are not divergent. Our goals are the same.
Exactly. Beautifully said.
I just want to add, for our parish, we have luckily 4 advisors, and Father Naji, who's amazing and very involved in our youth group. We have a group chat on WhatsApp. So the 5 of us are always in conversation and giving each other feedback. So we get his support constantly. He's also attends the meetings and provides a portion of the spiritual component of our meetings. So plus the kids create their own spiritual topic. And it's nice to have his input on that as well. So I don't know if your priest gets involved or not with you guys in discussing and planning, and I don't know.
Wait, Cherry, is that referring to my question, or?
Yes, I guess anyone, we just are, I imagine maybe some priests don't want to be involved, and they have their youth advisors run the programs, and if need be, they contact the priest. But Father Naji is very involved. He's always aware. But when it comes to decisions about things that we do at the meeting, he doesn't offer input, because that's what we're there for. That's our job. And the president, we have officers in our group, and he will text the kids finding out what part of the agenda they want to run. So I think just some ideas.
I think that's a great point. And, you know, we all are playing such an amazing role at our local parishes, and got different dynamics, you know, a mixed bag of approaches and different leadership styles. And I think the beauty of having some of these webinars is to, you know, to establish in some cases some sort of framework, some sort of level of consistency, so that we can approach things and kind of, as Vivian put it, you know, all of our goals are not divergent. We're all the same. So, you know, being able to deliver on that ministry. So hopefully, you know, these webinars and some of the resources that are provided help, you know, enable some of that, help get everyone on the same page. But I thought that was a good comment that was shared. Looks like Francis, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I raised my hand. Vivian, I want to get some input from you on what you think about the value of youth leader formation. I mean, how important is it that we participate in these webinars? How important it is that we do inner reflection, that we do a lot of searching for ourselves, you know, versus just being there, being present, helping where we can, not being judgmental, and just, you know, being who we are. I'm wondering about that now, because I've been involved in MYOs, you know, for about 10 years. And for about 8.5 of those years, I was pretty much swimming on my own, just feeling my way.
Yeah.
And just being around lots of loving teenagers and having a great parish support team, and most of the time, wonderful pastors. And now we're very much into, I'm sorry, I don't have my video on. We're very much into our own personal formation. How important do you think that is for us? Do we really need to do it?
Oh, Francis.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm asking you, Vivian. Okay.
You're preaching to the choir.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to go back to one of these people that I quoted. It's our job is not to put Jesus in their hearts. It's to help them realize he's already there, and to help remove the clutter, the debris, and the other interference that blocks the sound of God's still small voice within them. Well, you know what? That applies for us too.
Mm.
We have to do what it takes to find Christ in our heart and bear witness. That's what the ministry is about. And that's what, for me, this talk was focused on. Yes, there are the do's and the don'ts. Those are extremely important. But unless we are genuine people of God, people of faith who want to share the good news, we have no right being in this ministry. I mean, we are here to use our relationship with God, our spirituality, to bring these young people to a peaceful place in their relationship with God. And that requires our self-knowledge, our own prayer life that is based on an emotional connection to Jesus. You know, we can do our, you know, our novenas and our rote prayers, but until we have that truly emotional connection to Jesus, we aren't going to be able to adequately communicate that to him. And that's why these trainings are so important. They're important so that we can get in touch with Christ in our lives and then pass that on. Accompany them in a way that they can say, that is a loving Christian person, a loving Maronite, just communicated God's love to me. Now that might be simplistic, but you don't do that by berating people, shaming them, judging them, or telling them they're going to burn in hell.
Mm.
You know, it's about sharing God's love. And so our formation helps us to recognize that within ourselves and communicate it. And that's why the formation is so important.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. I'm just wondering about, say, youth leaders who are not interested in formation. What do, how do you deal with that?
You must ask your leadership.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm a firm believer in formation on every level, whether it's as parents, as religious, as seminarians, as priests. Never stop growing in our relationship with Christ, but we have to nurture it.
Yeah, true. I think one thing that the pandemic has certainly taught me through the work that we've been involved with, to start looking inward and start reflecting, self-reflection. And I hadn't really done enough of that beforehand. I'm just wondering about going forward, how we do that.
Well, I think that one of the things that we maybe as a group, can work on is really developing a prayer life that is truly meaningful. And it gets us in touch with who we are and how God sees us.
Yeah, Vivian, just to add to that point, I think a lot of our youth leaders, when they haven't like that deep intimacy or that everyday routine of prayer, I think it's hard for them to then model that to their youth.
Yes.
And I think, Francis, we were talking about this when we had met you at the parish, about like the importance of not only us praying, but then praying with the youth so that they can feel comfortable to pray, in their everyday lives. So it's not just when they're at church, but then how do we, and we kind of broke it down when we did that acronym ACTS, adoring God, adoration, C for contrition, asking for forgiveness, T for thanksgiving, and then S for supplication, asking for our needs, the needs of others. So I think bringing it down to a level where they can kind of say, oh yeah, like this is not so foreign, or I can really bring God into my everyday needs and situations and so forth. But I think but I do see that Sherry has her hand up. So Sherry, did you want to wrap us up with your final comment before we?
Yeah, I think it was kind of answered. My question was, I want to make sure that for myself, especially, and I'm sure my other advisors feel the same way, that our kids see Jesus in us. And, and I think, Vivian, you touched on that about, our prayer life and spending time with Jesus and developing that, and, by our examples as well. But I feel like I want more. I don't know what that is, though.
I think at one point we talked about a youth leader retreat just for youth leaders. Tony, do you remember that? We were going to do it, I think, in Philadelphia, but it happened to be over the weekend of St. Mary's feast day, and it kind of just was not the best time. That always remains a possibility, to really get serious about what it means. Of course, that would be up to your leadership.
So Vivian, yeah, I remember us planning that. We actually did have a retreat too in the Lenten time, and that was I don't know if you were able to make it, Sherry, but we had a beautiful retreat on healing and just opening ourselves up, to the Holy Spirit and what He wants to do in and through us. And I remember, I think there was a good 35 of us on that retreat, and all of us really benefited tremendously. But for sure, that would be part of the formation and the ongoing, accompaniment for youth leaders. So that's part of the office and the mission that we have to, as a team, to really meet the intellectual needs, the spiritual needs, the social needs, the pastoral needs. And the beautiful thing is that our team consists of youth leaders. So the youth leaders are able to then give from their experience and really connect to the experiences of others in their parishes. So, and that more that you want, it's a beautiful thing. It's a longing. You want more of the Lord. You want more of His peace, the more of His love, and that's something just to continually be attentive to. And I'm sure the Lord will bless that. It's a beautiful desire.
Yeah, I've been screaming at him for a long time for that, that deeper personal relationship. Yeah, we have to go like this sometimes, but most of the time it's good. Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for your questions, your comments, your sharing. Before Vivian closes with a video and her prayer, we just have a few announcements, and Tony's going to share the screen. So the two announcements for everyone, if you can look at the screen, you'll see the Salt and Light flyer. We are having a 2021 National Maronite Youth Days this month, June 26 and 27. June 26 will be between 4 to 6 p.m. and then June 27 will go a little bit longer, 4 to 6:30. Registration is now open. The program itself is really fun. A lot of great speakers, games, interaction, breakouts, hot topics. I really encourage you to get your youth registered. At this point, registration is quite low, but welcome to the Maronite Church. Last few weeks, we try and encourage more registrations. And this is really catered to our youth and how they can be salt and light in their parish communities. Vivian touched upon engagement, giving them that confidence, helping them to really own, their values. And this is really, I think, going to be a different type of setting for our youth. And if you have any questions, you're welcome just to reach out. But registration is at maroniteyouth.org. And we'll be following up to try and get more of our young people registered for that. And then the second announcement regarding our social media, just want to encourage you to follow, like, and engage with our social media on Insta and Facebook. And notice we have changed the handles. Our handles are at Office MYYA. So you might notice a little difference or you might not, but I just wanted to encourage you to stay connected. And if you have any questions, again, just reach out. We're very blessed that we can actually have this opportunity to come together, and we'll be taking a break over the summer, but stay tuned obviously for more webinars for your own formation and for all of our formation.
So I hope God stays for each and every one of you throughout your lives, throughout this summer. And let's hope to meet again soon, whether it's a convention or at the shrine in August. But until then, just keep on praying. And I hope to see you in the fall.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Have a good
great
night.
night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.